Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the sit down. Today's episode is about VA loans. So, if you are a veteran, you are a military service member, please stay tuned to this. This episode is specifically for you. And I want you to learn something out of this because this is so important that you actually get to use the benefits of a VA loan and how powerful they are to you as a service member. And ultimately, this is something that is crucial. So please hit that like button, comment down below. And if you have questions, please ask down below. Every question does help. Every comment does help. And I want to reach out to you personally and actually help you through this process. So if you have questions, please let me know and I can help guide you through this. Now, you're a service member. And I want to tell you that I am a veteran myself, so I do understand this process very well. Now, you're a service member. What you're going to do, first step, very, very simple. You're going to go onto your e-benefits. Now, I will tell you a thing about your e-benefits. Do not play around with the username and password. If you do not know it, hit I forgot, because I've done this before and I promise you it'll lock you out and it's really a pain to get that unlocked. So keep in mind if you do not remember it. And once you unlock your e-benefits, this is good for all service members, is make sure you're utilizing that e-benefits and make sure you're logging in regularly and checking that. And that's for all things, your disability, this is where you're going to access all of those services that you're allotted as a service member. So just make sure you're keeping that up to date. So you're going to log in, and what you're going to do is you're going to find where it says VA loans, and you're going to go in and download. You're going to apply for basically a certificate of eligibility. Now, this is pretty important for you. This is what your lender is going to need in order for you to qualify for your VA loan. You're basically going to, and granted, the lender can sometimes do this too, depending on the lender. But if you're trying to get your ducks in a row, go online and get this already. Get this ready for your lender so you can say, hey, I'm a VA buyer. Here's my certificate of eligibility. Let's rock and roll. Now, that's your very first step, and it's going to get you where you need to go. Ultimately, if you're still in, depending on your BAH, will depend on like what you're going to qualify for as far as housing, different things like that. And as you know, different areas give different amounts. So keep that in mind when you're applying, but recognize that it's still the same type of process, but it's even better because, one, when you are buying a house, the amount that you're allowed to borrow versus your income is higher. So typically speaking, you get to borrow more just being a service member, and your loan is 100% backed by the government. So no matter what, anything happens, the government is taking, a responsibility, basically saying, hey, I'm behind this loan, just so you know. Granted, that does mean there's going to be other inspections involved. So keep that in mind, is that there are additional inspections for VA loans. Now, another benefit for a VA loan is there's 0% down. 0% down. That's really an awesome thing. Now, you will, if you're a buyer, you will still have to do an earnest money deposit. So an earnest money deposit is basically in order to make the contract legal. You need some type of monetary consideration. So typically, the average, I would say, some people do 1% of the purchase price. Around this area, it's usually $1,500 and above. Minimum of $1,500 is pretty substandard, and above. Anything lower than that. So just keep in mind, if you are a service member, to have at least $1,500 ready to go. Now, that is, I would say, the first step to get the ball running. Have at least $1,500 for an earnest money deposit or more saved up. You can do 0% down. And I am going to tell you this, is that there's a way to actually get your closing costs lowered. And it's called something called a seller concession. And seller concessions are actually something that you can use to pay for your closing costs. And they will usually help pay all of them, if not all of them, most of them. And what you can do is you can actually, so let's say you have 1,500 bucks, you can actually get what's called the seller concession on the contract. And that's ultimately going to get you credits at closing to pay for your closing costs. Granted, you're taking it out of your loan. So this is money that you're going to have to pay a higher price to offer more so that you can bake in your closing costs at the end. And if you want more details about this, please reach out to me. If you're a service member, reach out to me about this because this is really, really important for you. Comment below if you have any questions, but this is a trick. This is a way that you can actually, with very, very little money, get into a house. Granted, it's a very competitive market, but with very little money, you can use this avenue to start searching for your home with as little as $1,500 for an earnest money deposit and structuring that loan and that contract right. Because obviously, being a service member, you're moving around a lot. There's a lot of expenses that go into it. And for sure, I know that you don't necessarily always have a lot of capital on hand. So again, if you're looking for a house, you're a first-time home buyer, you want to actually capitalize on being a service member and that amazing benefit that you have, reach out to me and I can give you some more of these tips so that if you are looking for a house, you can get into that house successfully and with as little money out of your pocket as possible. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. And as always, stay free.